take right to there. Yeah. So it should be easy. You just follow it. Price.
Check.
Good. Here or right.
football press conference. Doing a mic check.
Check. Mic check for HBU athletics football program.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Houston Baptist University for National Signing Day here for the Huskies football program. I'm Russ Renault, Assistant Athletic Director here at HBU, and we thank you for joining us here in the Glasscock lobby and on the Husky Sports Network. Right now, we're going to bring up head coach Vic Sheely to announce the additions to the 2020 football signing class. And now hand it over to head coach Vic Sheely.
Well, good afternoon there. It's great to see folks there and appreciate those guys that are watching online. I think that signing day is getting to be probably one of the more meaningful days for me in a coach. And you might think, well, that's just because, you get a chance to have new players. But, you really look and see lives that are changed and families that are changed because of a young man having an opportunity to be able to go to college. And I think when you get a chance to sit in homes and get a chance to be in schools, you pretty quickly find that there are a lot of hopes and dreams that are being realized today. So this is one of the great things about what we do, get a chance to see. Just want to take a moment just to say thanks. Perhaps any opportunity that we can do to really let our administration know how much they are appreciated. The support that it takes to run a Division I football program is tremendous, and Dr. Sloan, his leadership is really extraordinary, and I think that along with Steve Maniaci, still continues to make Houston Baptist, in my opinion, the best job in the Southland Conference. There are many people that go into really allowing a recruiting class to take shape like this. I won't announce the 30, 40 names that probably are involved weekly in the recruiting process, but just know that from the operational side, from our athletic trainers, our strength coaches, the academic support, the faculty there are meeting with our players when they come on campus for their visits. It's just an immense number of folks, and so really appreciate all that they've done to help contribute. Two special groups I really want to acknowledge is our coaching staff. I think our coaching staff has done a phenomenal job of recruiting, and I think we've done a good job recruiting in our 7 classes prior, but I think when you look at this group of athletes and the gifts that they have, it really is indicative of a lot of hard work, and so just really want to give great acknowledgement there. Zach Kitley, our offensive coordinator, and Tyler Skubnik, our special teams coordinator, and Jeff Mills, our defensive coordinator. They're kind of like the recruiting coordinator of that side of the ball, and the focus and the ability to kind of stay on point as decisions need to be made. And then when you needed to adjust, the ability to do that. And I thought it was just a masterful job done by our staff. Really want to thank the wives that allow us to do the things that we do and the time that's away. And so some of our coaches have young children, and so it's a little tough. I can remember, and my wife Holly's here today, but whenever our kids were in that toddler stage, and you're getting ready to go on the road recruiting, and they're blocking the door, telling Dad that he can't leave, and so I know what those moments are like, for the dad to have to take off, and for our wives to have to be all things so often to kind of pick up all the pieces. And then really just the last group, which is maybe the obvious and the reason why we're here, is just thank the signees and their families. I think when you look at this class and the number of opportunities that they had to go elsewhere, for they and their parents to entrust us with their sons, with their grandsons, with their nephews, is really kind of humbling, and it's just really it makes coaching probably a little bit more of a unique profession than most. Today we have signed a total of 23 in the 2020 class. We signed 17 back in December, and that was a tremendous group that we signed. The December date has kind of become now the focal point of where most of the signings occur, and probably 80% or 90% of the kids in the country have signed during that time. But today we're also really excited to be able to announce 6 additional guys to the class. I'm sure that there'll be some questions that will be asked, but we probably do expect in the next 3 to 4 days maybe like other schools, a couple more to add to the class. Sometimes you're in a race to get the necessary paperwork done prior to this particular press conference where we can actually release the names. As far as a breakdown, we had 9 defensive players that have signed with us in this class and 14 on offense. There's 8 main goals that we wanted to create, and if you really think about it, next week we'll quickly turn the page into the 2021 class, and it happens that fast. In names, we've already begun to populate our 2021 recruiting board, and there are guys that are offered already on that board. But whether the process that takes place next week or what happened a year from this week, you've got to be able to give definition to what you must recruit and what each one of those scholarships that you're going to bring in, what that guy looks like. And I really am excited because I really felt we addressed all 8 in a really stellar way. One of our main goals, not necessarily the first goal, but they are the biggest bunch in the house, is we really want to add strength and size to our offensive line. And today we'll get a chance here shortly to be able to acknowledge those 6 individuals that are part of this class. We wanted to sign a quarterback that can do all things, and we got a special one there. To be able to add depth and a lot of dynamic playmakers to our receiving core. Graduation kind of hit us pretty heavily at receiver, and so the need to bring in not only some talented guys, but also a very the number. We signed 5 wide receivers. It's a pretty high number for a receiver class, but we got plenty of spots. The fact that we're largely a 4 wide receiver offense, it doesn't take very much to gobble up those players on your roster. We really are excited. I think one of the things that we're going to look back on this recruiting class is that we felt like we needed to really sign some difference makers at running back. And we got a little bit older. We got 2 seniors next year, and with one of those seniors coming off an ACL. So, those are issues that you have to consider in recruiting. And we got a little bit thin at running back. And so we have been able to announce, and we'll announce 2 running backs there that I think are really everything that we wanted. I will go back and just kind of speak to the fact that when you look at guys on your board and you rank them, and you look at the 2 top running backs on our board since about July, we got the 2 top running backs on our board, and it's just those make you smile as a coach, and all of us on staff. We really wanted to make good on an effort to recruit the edge rushers. This has kind of become the area that, be it Division I or be it the NFL, you must have guys that can come off the edge of your defense and be able to rush and affect a quarterback in the pocket. And so we've been able to really address that in this recruiting class. We were not going to recruit a lot of interior defensive linemen because we did not have a huge graduation occur there, but we did want, and it's important to bring in a big guy that was of size, that was athletic and could run and move, and we felt like we did we got the guy that we really wanted there. And then we really felt like at linebacker, the game's been played in so much space now where offenses are making you run from sideline to sideline, and having a linebacker that really runs like a safety is really paramount to what it takes to play. And we got a special one out of East Texas, and I think that is really one of the things that this class will be looked at is our ability to run in general also. And then finally, probably with the offensive line being a big group, we set out to recruit quite a few numbers because we need to, because of graduation and some things of that nature in a secondary. And we really are excited. We are a nickel-based defense, which means that we play with 5 defensive backs unless the offense is on the goal line and there are multiple tight ends that force you to get big on defense. And so with that, it comes a demand to sign a good number of secondary kids. The kids that we have, it's a really good-looking group now. It's about 7 of them that we got here in this class, and feel like we've addressed a concern that we had going into this recruiting year. I would like to take a moment and just talk about the guys that signed with us today. These 6 guys, I think sometimes if you're not careful, the December guys get a lot of early recognition. And I want to make sure that we do a good job of recognizing these guys that did come along to us here in February. And then at the end, I'm going to come back in and touch on the December guys because it puts into context exactly just how big this class is and what we really feel like makes it special. We signed an offensive lineman at San Francisco City College, William Brewer. He is a guy that his hometown is Las Vegas, Nevada, and is a big, long tackle. Plays for really one of the better JCs on the West Coast, and we're really excited about William being a part of our program. Signed a really long, tall safety, Josh Graham, at Prosper High School. Played for Brendan Schmidt up there, and Prosper, I think, made it to the semifinals of the state this year in 6A, and would have been probably a part of our December signee class, but couldn't get him on campus because of the playoffs. But Josh is just the potential is just through the roof on what this guy has to what he will achieve here. We believe he's a 6'2", long arm, long wingspan safety, and those guys are just valuable in certain roles that you really like to see those guys be able to execute for you. The next guy is Kenneth Kemp. Kenneth is at Cedar Hill High School up in the Dallas area, certainly one of the most athletic high schools in the state of Texas. Their track team is probably for years has been historic, one of the very best, and Kenneth is one of the fast dudes on many of their sprints, but this year is going to kind of concentrate on some of the jumps and things like that. And so as good as he is a track athlete, he's a better football player. He's a cornerback and very, very athletic. He's a guy that's got good size to him and can really, really run. When you look at his tape, you just really see him time and time again be able to play catch-up to a route or to be able to put himself into a dominant position based on his foot speed and just ability to move dynamic. And he's been well coached there at Cedar Hill, and we expect him to come in and to be able to make a pretty easy transition here at HBU. One of the biggest guys that I have personally ever seen walk in a door on an official visit, we signed a young man, Kendall Seps, and he is out of Fort Bend Austin High School, played for Mike, and I'm going to get this right today here, but it's a Rogue Mangla, and he's one of the neatest young men also to be around. When you look at his recruiting history, was a national recruit, top 100 in the nation in his position, and certainly had a lot of guys come calling. But it's the power of Houston. A young man that's in Houston wants to stay in Houston. And this is a phenomenal opportunity for us to get a guy. He's 6'4", and I think they say he's 340, but that scale may have tipped a little bit heavier than that. But when you look at him, he's just a massive human being that's really athletic. He's special. And we just can't wait to get him on campus for many reasons. But I know that our quarterback and our running back, those guys that are dependent on those great offensive tackles, will no doubt really benefit from a guy like this in our front, in our offensive front. Let's see, one of the two guys that we signed today from the greater Houston area is one of maybe, if not the best, certainly one of the best running backs this city has produced in a long time. When you look at the success that Tompkins High School out in Katy has achieved the last couple of years, it doesn't take very much. Just go look at what they've done in the playoffs. You have to acknowledge that good players enable you to have that kind of success. And R.J. Smith is really, really one of those special guys. Todd McVeigh's a head coach out there, and I think this guy is so athletic and fast. He's one of those two guys I spoke about that was on our recruiting board, and I just think that we're blessed. It makes, I think, offensive coaches really sleep well at night when they have a running back that can do all things. He's a tough inside runner, dynamic, speed on the perimeter, can take it deep, and he's also got really good ball skills. And so he's a guy that you never have to worry about changing your call based on which running back's in the ball game. And so RJ is one of those really, truly special guys in this city. And most of the folks that follow Greater Houston football will certainly know his name, and that's a really wonderful, wonderful get for our program. And then the last guy that we signed today, Corey Smooth, is a defensive back, and he can play it all, but he's a really tremendous safety. His cover skills at safety are really, really fantastic. I can tell you one thing. If I was a DB, I'd want to have a last name Smooth to define me, because he's such a smooth athlete. But a great young man, phenomenal leadership skills. His football IQ is just very, very bright. He's a leader back there. Played at Archbishop Rummel High School there in New Orleans. Of course, from Slidell, which is the home of a pretty good player, Andre Walker, that just made first-team All-American in our program this past year. And so there must be something in that Slidell water that's pretty good. But we're excited there. I think when you kind of look at that program, and here again, undefeated state champions, it really, I don't know how they'd have finished up nationally if the high school Ram could really play out of state. But I think Rummel would have been one of the very best schools in the nation had you had a high school playoff. Nick Monica is the head coach over there, and really, I think when you kind of look at coach players, that's a good thing happening over there, these days in New Orleans. I want to now speak to the 17 guys that are part of our December group. I think that they equally, when you add these two together, in the 23 we signed, as I mentioned earlier, they complete all the needs that we have. Isaiah Cash is a safety. He's out of Rouse High School over in Leander, just north of Austin. We saw Isaiah at multiple camps and had a chance to take a good look at him. He's a defensive back that can do a lot of things, and we expect that he'll come in and his athletic ability will show up really quick on our field. Jalen Coleman, here again, those that follow the greater Houston area know that Jalen had a phenomenal career at Second Baptist. We saw Jalen in multiple camps. He's a big receiver. He's one of those 6'2" plus guys, and he's also just a real massive kid. He's a big wide receiver that can run. And I just can't wait, much like all these guys, just to see that big of a guy run on our practice field. It'll be a good moment when we get him here this summer. Ishmael Fuller is another outside wide receiver along with Jalen. These are two really good-looking, long wide receivers. Ishmael's out of North Shore High School, which is not only the state champion here in Texas, but I think in one poll had him as a national champion. And here again, I think this is part of that receiving core we brought in that has been committed to us for a long time, and we really appreciate it. I think what we do with the air raid offense, and people perceive that air raid just throws the ball every down, but your running backs have great opportunities to run the ball, and then also just the opportunity to catch the ball if you're a wide receiver. And so we've been able to attract some special guys. But Ishmael was in our camp, and we saw him in the U of H camp, and so we've been able to put eyeballs on a lot of these guys to really see them compete, throughout the summer and then throughout this particular fall. Devion Hargrove is a defensive back out of Summer Creek. Summer Creek's really an athletic, growing high school here in the city. Devion is a long guy. He's a 6-foot guy that can really, really run, and to find cornerbacks that have that kind of length, that are very, very athletic, it's a blessing as a coach. There are certain things you cannot coach. You cannot coach speed, and you cannot coach length. And Davion's a special guy because he possesses both, and he's a highly competitive guy. And we're just really thankful here. Again, this is a cornerback specifically that is addressing an area that we really laid really a pretty good target on, really trying to find those key answers. Luke Horner is a edge rusher. We used to call them defensive ends, but everybody's gotten fancy and calls them edge rushers now because it's their job to be able to put a quarterback in conflict. And Luke is out of Midway High School in Waco, Texas, one of the great high school programs in this state. Luke is a tremendous scholar athlete. We saw him in camp also. Most of these guys we saw in camp, and it gives you a chance to know exactly what you're buying, so to speak. And so I think, I guess maybe from the compliance world, that's a bad term that you buy a player, but that you understand exactly what you're getting. But Luke is really a guy that seemed like he's growing. When we saw him in camp, and then to see him in back a few weeks ago, he was on campus. I think he's already grown an inch and a half and put on about 20 pounds. And so he's going to be a good-looking guy here. I know, but if he keeps this up by the time he comes on campus in June. Frederic Johnson is a cornerback out of Sheldon School, one of the best academic schools in the state of Texas. There in the Dallas area. We saw Sheldon at both a camp down here in Houston and also one in Dallas that we were at this summer, and really love the way he competed. You know, when you see guys that are really athletic on both sides of the ball and they match up to a receiver and a defensive back in a one-on-one drill to camp, it doesn't take a real smart person to realize, you know, whether a guy can really play or not. And so that's what these camps do. They really allow you to evaluate guys against really some of the best talent in the state. But Frederic is a guy that is just got great quickness. His ability to accelerate and the change of speed he has and possesses is really special. His dad is the track coach there, and I'm just hoping that his dad doesn't run Debbie on the ground and run track this spring and save him for us a little bit. But it is a really great thing that they've got going there at Sheldon. Next guy is Peyton Kennedy. He's at a White House High School over in East Texas, and when you kind of look at what's going on over there, you know, East Texas has always been known for really athletic speed guys, and we've tried to make it a point of emphasis for us in recruiting. And we really feel like Peyton is a linebacker that played running back, and so that he played both ways. There's a smaller high school in East Texas, like many of them are. And I think we'd have taken him as a running back. He's that athletic. But when you kind of look at the skills that it takes to be a running back, where you see a hole and you run downhill and you hit that hole and you go, well, some of the same instincts apply to a linebacker, where you identify a hole that a linebacker would hit and you kind of fit to that daylight. And so I think Peyton is incredibly fast, and he's got a good frame on him, and I know that the need to be able to get more speed on the defense to help play in space, that this is a great answer for us. Gabriel Martinez is a junior college offensive lineman that's here on campus. He was a mid-year transfer, played for Mark Mccreary at Saddleback Community College out in Orange County. And Saddleback's certainly one of the best junior colleges in the nation. And it's really a fine young man. He's a big, tall guy. He's one of those 6'4", 300-pounders that really has phenomenal feet on him, just for a big guy. We're just thrilled to death with all of our JC offensive linemen that came in mid-year, and this is really a good-looking guy here now. I want to speak to another guy that's a JC guy, Dylan Mccreary. He's out of De College up in the kind of the Bay Area. But Dylan is a big offensive guard. He's a pretty massive road grader. He's one of the toughest guys that you see on tape, just the way he plays. He's very physical. We think that he'll be great for our offensive line room and just bringing a culture of what tough guys do up front. And really excited about Dylan. He's on campus, as I said, right now. Edward Paradis is a young man out of New Mexico Military Institute, which is a community college, JC. He's out of Quebec City, Canada. He's a big old Canadian and a tough guy, strong, and he can play guard or tackle, and we think he's just really, once again, one of these guys that really will make a difference because of what he brings into us in an intangible way, but also his tangible gifts are really admirable. Darion Sheffield is a wide receiver out of Allen High School, and Darion's hometown is Sherman, but I think when you kind of look at these guys out of Allen, they've kind of got figured out how to win ball games. Terry Gamble's the head coach there, and truly one of the best coaches in this state in terms of how to recruit because of just how organized a program is. And so I think we feel like we got a guy that his IQ is really exceptional as a football player. Came into one of our camps, and it's hard to kind of always grade which one's the best player, but there's no receiver at our camp better than Darion. And his route running skill, his ball skills are tremendous. And I have no doubt that he'll play quite a bit for us here as we move forward. Blake Spencer is an offensive center out of Golden West Community College, is here on campus right now. They played at Newport Harbor High School and played for a good friend of mine, and Coach Brinkley has been there about 30 years as a high school head coach, and that's a pretty long time to be at a high school that long. But really, Spencer's a tough guy. is true what a center ought to be. The nice thing about Spencer is that, some centers come in a little bit maybe shorter because you can play with a little bit less length at center, but he's got length to him, but he's also a 300-pounder with feet. His football IQ, I think Coach Castro would agree, is probably as high as any kid we've ever had come in. And just talking football with him, he's answering the question before it's even asked. He's just we're really excited about, having a guy like him at the center position. Josh Stearns is the younger brother of Jerry Stearns, and I know sometimes we kind of joke a little bit about which one's the better player, which one's the better athlete, and I'm really glad that we don't have to sit there and make that decision. We can both put them on the field and let both the Stearns kind of play well. Josh is really athletic, dynamic, quick, and but we think that he has that seriousness that you see in Jareth. And Jareth leading the nation in receiving this past year. I think Josh has a pretty good big target and a standard to try to match, in Big Brother. But Josh is a really special guy, and we're appreciative of the Stearns family for entrusting us with two of their sons. Tyson Thompson is a wide receiver that is out of Klein High School, and Tyson played for Shane Hallmark up there, and a program that's doing well. And you look at good athletes, it's amazing how good athletes help programs achieve. And so Tyson was in our camp. We think he can play all four receivers, meaning both either inside slots or the two outside guys. He's really diverse, highly competitive. I just wish I could look good as good as he does with the shirt off, because he's one of those really just committed guys to the weight room, to working hard, and he's really one of the best looking athletes that we have probably brought in. Just looking at him on the hoof, he's a really neat young man too, very smart, very high academic young man with an immensely high academic scholarship also to come to HBU, and it's kind of great, as well as most of these young men do. Ladarius Turner is a running back out of North Mesquite High School, and I think when you look at guys that look and match what you have on campus, sometimes it helps you be able to predict success. Ladarius is a splitting image, Drayshawn Manyweather, and that's a big compliment. Even as he's on campus back in December, that's a big compliment around our place, because we think Drayshawn's a really special guy. Ladarius has got great power inside, and his measurables are that real similar to what we see as a big back and what he should do in a program. Lors Will Ua is a nose guard at a Huddle High School, another really fine program in this state. And I think Lors, if Holly and I would ever have another child, I think a boy's name ought to be named Lors Will in somewhere in a generation. And so we might have we may have to adopt, but we might have another child just for that one. But Lors Will is a good-looking guy. He's a big, massive 300-pound nose guard, defensive tackle, very athletic, and I thought that Coach Jordan did a really fine job. We were able to get him committed pretty early in the season, and those big interior defensive linemen are hard to get committed, and we did a great job with that one. And then really the last one, but certainly not least, is Desmond Young, a quarterback out of Bastrop High School, played for Todd Patman over there. And this guy can do it all. He reminds us a lot of a guy athletically like Tony Dawson, but really has a nice, arm talent. He's a tremendous baseball player. Hopefully baseball doesn't get too fancy and draft him high this spring, but he's just a complete athlete and just a great young man. Does a phenomenal job in the classroom. And so that's our 23 guys that we enjoy putting out there for everybody to really see and as a class. And I think that as we look forward to spring ball starting, we begin Monday on the field. As we look forward to that, we can't wait to get these guys plugged in. I'm sure right afterwards here, certainly be glad to answer any questions that anybody has. I think the thing that we have to do is we have a good football team coming back here to HBU. And this class of recruited young men make us better and make us better fast. And these are exciting times to be a coach on staff here, and I believe that many of us that follow us will realize that we're certainly trending in a way where our athletes are starting to develop pretty quickly in achieving a lot of things as individual players, and then we're seeing our program grow in the success also. Our goals are to be a national champion one day. Our goal is to win the conference championship, to be the best FCS school in the state of Texas. We want to win the opening game. We want to win the last game, because if you make it to the playoff and win the last game, you're a national champ. Those are big goals, but that's what we wake up every morning driving into work to achieve. And we feel like that every day that we're lucky to be here as coaches. We got a great school, and we just can't wait to September 6th, where we got in Denton, Texas, North Texas. Dogs up.
All right, thank you very much, Coach Shealy. And everyone watching at home, and even when you go back, there will be more information on this class. You can find the complete story on hbuhuskies.com. And we thank everybody for joining us here today on the Husky Sports Network.
Mm-hmm.